Alright, gamers. Let's get it poppin'. So, it's been a while since I've done a tutorial stream, but with Project Melody being like all the rage right now, and people wanting to get into streaming with their avatars, I figured it would be a good opportunity to do an updated version of the tutorial. I know this process like the back of my hand now, so hopefully this will be a little bit easier to follow. A couple things to keep in mind. This stream, I'm gonna have JR Stan upload
For
to
real?
YouTube. Oh my gosh, cute kitty, $15 tip. Thank you so much. So here's the dealio. The usual meme commands and stuff are currently disabled. I'll enable them after we finish the tutorial part of the stream. And the main thing with that is I just don't want like memes blocking out an important part of the tutorial. If someone's watching this and there's like something they don't get, and then Papuko jumps out of the screen and like blocks the screen, that's problematic. So yes, streaming as an avatar. There's a couple different programs for it. I'm currently using a program called Leopit, which uses the VRM model type. And that's what we're going to cover today, is how to create a model that's compatible with most of the software used by Japanese VTubers. For this tutorial, I will be posting links for everything that I use in this tutorial, so that way you guys that are interested in learning the process can download the same model I used, download Blender, Unity, the plugins, and basically follow along and do this yourself so you get some practice. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Some of them I might wait till after the tutorial to get through. But yeah, if I do something and I don't explain it, feel free to call it out. Alright, so Metabeta asked, I thought you got rid of your leap motion. I did, because it did not work with Windows like a year ago. But they've since made it work, and I don't know, it works now. It's a nice alternative, because the way I have my setup, I have like an L-shaped desk. So when I'm facing one direction, I use Magic Mirror, and when I'm facing the other direction, I use Leopit. Just the combination of like lighting and where I have my screens and where I'm looking and what I'm interacting with, they work better. I guess that's my first world problem, is I have 2 computers and 3 screens. Alright. So, let me start by saying there's a few things you should have installed before starting any of this. The first one is Blender. Blender is a modeling program. It's free to download. There's a couple different versions of it, and I'm going to be using Blender 2.79. It's a bit older, but I like the interface a little bit more, and I'm more familiar with it. If you use Blender, was it 2.81, I think is what they're on now? This tutorial will still work, but some of the shortcut keys I use will be a little bit different. The main tools that we use, cats, for example, will be exactly the same. Bestalon says, gotta replace your windshield. Oh gosh. What the hell happened? Did it just like crack from like the weather, or did something horrendous happen? Alright. So Blender's the first program you want to have. The second one you want to have is Unity. Now, my understanding is you can use pretty much any version of Unity from 2017 onward, but for this we'll be using 2017.4.28 F1. This is the same Unity installation that you would need for VR chat. So my guess is that if you're watching this tutorial, you probably already have it installed, or at least know of it. So as far as I know, this Vroid SDK that we'll be working with works with just about any version of Unity. And then there's 2 other things you need. So there's 2 Blender plugins that I recommend. The first one is Cats. Cats is a plugin made specifically for people making things like VR chat avatars. it's got a bunch of neat tools that make some of the more complicated processes in Blender as simple as one click. So it can import like regular FBX models, the Vocaloid MMD models. There's a couple other types. I think that the ones that you would use for Steam and XNLA, which is like a commonly ripped game file type. Long story short, like this is going to make your life a lot easier. You can also do things like clean up the bones and clean up the textures and optimize it. You can create the eye tracking, you can create the visings, which are the little mouse shapes for when you talk. It's a pretty neat tool. The other one you would need is Material Combiner, which is a add-on that takes your materials and merges them together. So models are typically made up of several materials. The one I'm using right now has about 8. Things like the face, the eyes, the hair, the clothing, the glasses, they're all separate materials. Ideally, if you're making an avatar for like VR chat, you want to try to combine as many of those as possible, and that will help kind of optimize the model. Keep in mind, like the way it works is it basically stitches together the textures, and then all those textures will have the same shader applied. So you don't want to go too crazy with it. It's not always necessarily the best idea to just merge everything. Say you have like clothing on one part of your avatar and you have like a shiny gold bracelet. Like that shiny gold bracelet, you're gonna probably want to have a different shader that's more like reflective. But if you have all of those materials merged together, you can't like fine tune individual aspects like that. So, we're not gonna get too into that, but it's something I recommend because it's integrated with cats. So it's just good to have it installed. Links for these will be in the YouTube download, and I'll just quickly cover how you would install those. So say you download the plugins, they'll come as a zip file. Save those to your desktop, downloads folder, wherever. You would go to up here where it says File, and then, hang on, Use Preferences. And then, let's see, Add-ons. And then you would do Install Add-on from File. So you click this, you navigate to the zip file and select it, and then hit Install Add-on from File. It'll add it to this list here, so you might have to look for it. So if you're just installing cats for the first time, you can just type in cats and you'll see it shows up right here. It'll be grayed out, so you just click this little checkbox, and it enables it. Same thing for Material Combiner. You just upload the zip, check the box, and then hit Save User Settings. So once you've done that, Blender's ready to go. We can go ahead and import our model, and then get to work on it. Alright, so if we're going to go ahead and import, in the download links, there will be one for a Hatsune Miku model. Let me pull that up really quick. I think I have it in GitHub in the project folder already. Okay, so there'll be a folder called TDA Miku. We're gonna open that, and then what you wanna open in Blender is this file right here, the .pmx. Double click that, give it a second, and you'll see there should be a model on your screen. You'll notice like the textures aren't there. That's because we're in solid view mode. That's an easy fix. You just click this little ball right here and slide it up to material. And now we can see our character. The textures, if you wanted to say, like, if you download a model and you just want to like recolor it, you can do that when you're in Unity. So we're not going to go over that right now. If you're like adding parts to this model, adding new textures, and you want to do that all in Blender, that's a little bit more complicated, and that's something I probably would want to cover in a separate video, so we're not going to go over that right now. What we will go over is probably one of the most important things when you're setting up a model, and that's the armature. The armature is the little orange bones you see here. you'll notice that like it's kind of a mess. That's because I have X-ray turned on. If you go to the armature tab, it's right here on the top right. You can see that there's a box for X-ray. Basically what this does is it just shows the bones through the model so I can see where they are. Most models should be good to go, but we'll want to kind of clean up the armature a bit and simplify it, as well as rename some of the bones for Unity so that way we don't have to manually assign every single one. This is where cats comes in handy. So up here on the top left for the cats tab, you're gonna want to click this little settings wrench right here. We're gonna deselect join meshes, and we're gonna leave these three checked: connect bones, combine same materials, remove zero weight bones. So these three things, once we hit fix model here, cats will go through and clean up the model for us. This can take no more than a couple seconds. If it's taking like a minute or two, like Blender might be crashing. You can see this is a lot easier to work with now, and there's a few things I want to point out. So let me change the view here. Right now it's on wire, but we're going to change it to solid. You can see the bones a little bit better. And we're just going to go ahead and hide the armature, or sorry, the mesh for now. You can see this is kind of like the outline of the body. You have the hip bones is where it starts, and then you have spine, chest, neck, head. This is all this mess right here is the hair. You got your shoulders, upper arm, lower arm, hand and fingers. And then the legs are basically three bones. There's a fourth one, but we don't really need it. You have the upper leg, lower leg, footies, and then toes. The reason I say you don't really need the toes is because sometimes things like VR chat and stuff, if you have the toes enabled, it'll make the character do like a weird thing where it stands on its tippy toes. I'm not really a fan of that, but you can leave them in and then just not assign them in Unity. So it's a personal preference thing, but I usually just merge these bones into the feet. That's like a more advanced thing. I don't think the average like person needs to worry about that. So this is all assuming everything's gone smoothly up to this point. If you find that it throws an error, it says like leg bones missing, arm bones missing, you'll have to go in and add those. That would probably be something I would cover in a separate tutorial as well, so I won't cover that right now. We're just going to assume you're working with a relatively well-made FBX or PMX file. Okay, next steps. We need to set up two important things to give the avatar, life. And that's the eye tracking and the mouth visings. The mouth visings, most PMX models will have those installed. And the way you can tell is if you right-click your mesh, and you go over here to the mesh tab, you can see down here there's a bunch of shape keys. These are in Japanese, and here's another thing where cats is super awesome. If you click right here under model options, there's a translations tab. Just go ahead and hit translate all. It'll say translate everything, and you'll notice over here the Japanese moon runes have been changed to English. And you can test out these visings and blend shapes with the slider. Let's see, here's the ones we want to make sure the model has. There's ah, ch, and oo. Those are really handy to have because you can actually auto-generate all the facial blend shapes you need using cats. So we'll start with the eye tracking. If your model has bones for the eyes, you can add eye tracking with cats using the eye tracking tab. You just need to select the mesh that has the head. We only have one mesh, so that's easy enough. The left eye and the right eye bones. And then if you want the model to blink automatically, you can select the blinking blend shapes from this list. If you don't want the character to blink, or you just don't have blinking blend shape set up, you can just go ahead and disable it. Likewise, if you just want the model to blink, but you don't want the eyes to move, you can disable the eye movement and just have the blinking. This model though, it has everything we need, so we're just gonna go ahead and give it everything. I just need to double check. There's Wink, and then there's like Wink 2. It looks like Wink 2 is more of like a normal blink, so we'll go ahead and assign those. And then just hit create eye tracking. Once again, it'll take like a second, but it should do everything you need to do. If you have the armature visible, you can see here it added 2 bones above the eyes, these tall ones right here, as control bones. And we can test out the eye tracking with this button right here, start eye testing. And you can just do these little sliders. Looks like the eyes move pretty normally. If they need to move more or less, you can control that with this eye movement range slider, and then hit set range. You can get like really crazy with it, but like that looks like kind of stupid, so we're not gonna leave it that way. Let's see, you can test the blinking, and we didn't set lower lid. In my experience, like I don't even know why VRChat has a lower lid setting, because it just usually looks bad. Alright, we'll hit stop tracking. And then we're going to set up the visings. Now, this part isn't totally necessary. If your model has the blend shapes for the basic like mouth visemes, the ach, u, e, and o, those can be used by the VRM software. You don't need to create like all the ones that you would need for VRChat. I'm just gonna do it with the assumption that you may also want to use this model for VRChat. So this is super easy. If you have these already made, you just click create visemes. It'll go through and it'll do like calculate out like combinations of these 3 to fill all the rest of the blend shapes. Once those 2 things are done, you're actually good to go. You don't really need to do much else more. If you wanted to optimize it, you totally can. This is where Material Combiner comes in handy. You hit generate material list. It'll show that there's like 10 different materials right here. And if you wanted to make them all just one material and make your life super simple, you can just do save at list 2, save it's gonna put out a PNG file that's all those textures stitched together, and you just crop that out into your textures folder. We're not going to do that because that would probably make this model look worse, because it's got a lot of high resolution textures. So we'll just leave it as is. I'm just going to save this really quick with Control S. Call it niku.blend. And we're going to go ahead and export the model. That's at the very top of the cats tab. It'll throw some errors. Eyes not named Glade. Let me double check that. Yeah, let's just rename this really quick. If you want to rename your mesh, you just double click it. Easy as that. There we go. Alright. Model has 10 materials, that's fine. We don't care. We're a-holes and we don't care if we lag people in the VRChat lobby. I hit export. And you're done with Blender. Awesome, right? If you switch over to Unity, assuming you have not made a Unity project yet, I should probably cover that. So I use Unity Hub. It's nice because I work with a couple different versions of Unity. It's like if you wanted to use like Photoshop 2019, but you also wanted to use like Photoshop, like CS6 for some reason. You can easily toggle between those. Unity Hub basically works in the same way. You select which version of Unity you want. We want 2017.4. And then you make a new project, you tell it where to save, and then hit create. So once it opens, you'll have a blank everything. Like there's not gonna be anything in this assets folder. So you're gonna wanna take that folder that you were working in earlier with the Miku model and drag that into your project, as well as install the Vroid Unity package. Link for that will be in the YouTube description, but let me just pull up the website really quick. The UniVRM website, under if you just Google it, it should be like the first thing that comes up. It's like a GitHub. You go over to releases, and you just want this Unity package right here. It'll download as a Unity package file type, so you can just double click it with your Unity project open, and it'll just like, oh, you want to import this? And then you're like, yeah, and then you're good to go. All right, so we're gonna navigate to our Miku folder, and we're gonna find the model we just made. You can see here she is. She looks a little weird because she has standard shaders on, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. What we are gonna worry about is assigning her rig to Unity. Real quick, I want to say hi to the chat. Kaiser, good to see you, bud. We're doing a tutorial stream, so I have the meme commands temporarily muted, but they will be back as soon as we're done with this tutorial. Good news is that we're already past the halfway point. Like, this is a pretty fast process. We're gonna select humanoid under the rig tab on the inspector. That's basically telling Unity like, hey, this model type is for like a human character, and it's gonna need human animations. Hit apply. It's gonna take a second. This YouTube. Yeah, no, I don't really post things on YouTube super often because YouTube is a dying platform and only caters to large creators. Anyway, when you, let me take a step back because I didn't explain what we're doing here. So, once you assign the humanoid armature, you still have to tell it which bones apply to what parts of the model, or rather, what bones from the model apply to a humanoid armature. So saying like, hey, these are the legs, this is the chest. Under this humanoid dropdown, there's a configure tab. We're gonna click on that, and you'll see that most of the bones are assigned already. We zoom in here, you'll see that you can tell where the hips are, the legs, the arms, the head. But it is missing the chest here, so we'll have to assign that manually. Just click that little dot and type chest. This may auto map for you, and it may auto map wrong. So just look through these, make sure these names match what these are on the left side. You can go ahead. I like to disable the toes, so I switch that to none and none. You also want to usually check the head bone because it likes to assign the hair bones right here to the mouth. So let's just go ahead and set that to none, and then just make sure that your finger is assigned properly, because sometimes it screws up and it assigns like the middle finger to the ring finger, and just these get all fucked up when you try to do shapes with your hands. So once it's all good, you can hit apply. You need to take a second to make the changes, and then hit done. You can go ahead and drag this model into your scene. I usually drag it into this little left pane here instead of dragging it into the window, because this will make sure it gets put at 0, 0, 0, like right at the center. We're also going to want to change the materials on this so it doesn't look like it's made out of clay. If you select your model again and you go over the materials tab, you can extract the materials. I usually extract it to a materials folder just so they're easier to keep track of things. Hey, what's up, Tyler? Good to see you, buddy. And Mega Oof, good to see you too. The extracting materials, and if you're also extracting textures, sometimes can take a while. Thankfully, all the textures are extracted, so we don't have to do that part. You go into your materials folder, and one thing that's important to note about VRM in particular is they don't typically support all of the crazy shaders you normally see in VR chat. There's a very limited number of shaders. Fortunately, they give you a lot to work with, but you're gonna want to do some fine tuning. So go ahead and just select all of them, and we're gonna just change them all to VRM, sorry, not VR, VRM M-Tune. You can see everything looks kind of bright and crazy. A lot of that is because some of these are like cutout textures with transparency, and that's not applied yet. You can change that to transparent, or sorry, not transparent. That makes a weird, horrible thing. Change it to cutout, and you notice it kind of fixes everything up. You may need to go to your textures and look for ones that have transparency. I'm just gonna go ahead and select all the main textures, and then do alpha is transparency right here, and then hit apply. I'm glad you're liking the music, guys. I was working on playlists last night. I still got about 700 albums in my library to go through, but we're getting there. Alright, so this avatar looks pretty snazzy. The only thing I might want to change is like the sphere mapping, but I'm not going to worry about that for now, just because this is a tutorial and we just want to make sure this looks solid. We're going to go ahead and select the model here on the left, and then up at the top, VRM, UniVRM, export humanoid. We'll go ahead and put in the author as Googie, because I'm awesome, and hit export. And we want to export this in our project folder. I'm going to do it in the TDA Miku folder as... Actually, no, I lied. Let's do this. Let's make a folder called Normalize, because what we're doing right now is we're taking the model and we're exporting it through VRM once to standardize it. So it's going to put all the textures, materials, blend shapes all in separate folders. It's going to T-pose the model. So give that a few seconds to run. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer with like really complicated models. If your model's like weighing in at like 50 megabytes, like it might take a minute. So just be patient. And once it's in, wait for it. Okay. In our normalized folder, we'll see another model here. Let's go ahead and drag that into your scene as well. You'll notice it overlaps our old model, but we don't need our old one anymore. So delete her. She's gone. She's canceled. Goodbye. This right here can technically export straight to VRM and work. You're not going to have any facial shapes or anything, but like this right here is the bare minimum to get a model working with VRM. We obviously want to give it a little bit more life than that, so let's go ahead and do that. First thing we want to do is the blend shapes. So when you select your model, you notice on the inspector there's a bunch of different scripts. We want to select the blend shape one. You can open it by double-clicking this blend shape avatar box, and you'll see a tab here with a bunch of different blend shapes. What these are is they're predefined blend shapes that are used by most VRM software, but you have to tell it what blend shapes to combine when you make those. So we'll make this window bigger here, and we'll start with A. So go to body, and you scroll down to your A visine. You can either use the pre-built ones or the ones generated for VRChat. I'm gonna use the ones generated for VRChat because they're usually a little bit more subtle. And go ahead and slide those sliders up. So you see down here in the corner, wait, you can't see because my fat head's in the way. 1 second. Whoosh. All right, you can see down here in the corner, the mouth is open because we slid the blend shape all the way to the right. Now you can go crazy and combine these however you want, but keep in mind, as you talk, it's going to toggle between these different blend shapes. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so we got A, we got I, let's do that one right here.
Ooh, you want to join the Geek Squad?
Farmer Boy John, thank you for the follow. Let's see, we're getting U, and then we need E, and we need O. Alright, so that's the bare minimum for just being able to talk in VRChat, or sorry, in VRM. If you want to have blinking, you gotta set those up. There's two sets of blink vising. So one is the eyes combined. So we can just go down here and slide, here we go, our blink visings. We'll slide both of them all the way to the right. And then at the top you can see there's blink L and blink R. You would separate those two and just slide up left for left, and right for the right blink. Okay, so now we can blink and we can talk. These other blend shapes here, not all programs use them, but you can do like an angry face by setting angry visings if you have that as a facial shape. You could do sorrow, fun, joy. These names are kind of non-descriptive, but basically it's just like excited, happy face, sad face, angry face. And then the look up, through the look up, look down, look left, and look right. You don't need to worry about those. I have yet to run into a program that even uses those. Alright, so we set up our blend shapes. Now we gotta set up just a few other things. The eye tracking is pretty easy. We did the hard part, which is making the eye bones. We just need to set them up in here to have reference points. So target, we're just gonna type in main camera. That's gonna, when we're testing it, it's gonna tell it to look at this camera here, which we should probably move in front of our character. There we go. Go back to our model. And then head, you want to put the head bone in, so just type head here. Oh. And you can see, now there's like a little dotted line between the head and the camera. So when you move that, you'll notice that that line moves as well. Let's turn on Draw Gizmo, the VRM Look at Bone Applier. And then these degree mappings, this is basically going to tell it like how far can it look to the left and right, as well as up and down. So like, you don't want your eyes like rolling back in your head when you look up because something moves up too high. So the best way to fine tune this one is to actually go into play mode. You click this play button up here, and that makes all the scripts run, so the eye tracking will start to work. And let me hide myself again for a second so you can see. If you move this up and down, you see the eyes are just moving slightly. So let's start by turning these all the way up so you can see what the difference is. Let's just get crazy. So you can see, if you go too high, like you basically have Miku turned into a zombie, right? We don't want that. So let's go ahead and try setting all these to 45. Usually in most models, that's about the sweet spot. Alright, for up and down, that looks good. Let's do left and right. Left and right, that looks a little bit crazy, so let's dial that down further to like 35. Okay, that looks good. I like how that looks. Before you do anything, before you hit this play button again, when you exit play mode, it's not going to save these changes you made. So if you right-click on this script and then do copy component, it will copy this entire component, including its values. And then you can exit play mode, right-click it again, and do paste component values, and all the stuff that you got during your testing is in place. It's a really nice little trick, and this works for other things when you're testing in Unity. So dynamic bones, for example, I usually go into play mode, test them out and fine tune them, and then copy the component and paste it outside of play mode. Just a few minor things left, and then we can get things going. We're going to do the first-person offset. If you use any VR software that supports VRM, basically this offset right here is where your camera is going to be. So if you're familiar with making VR chat avatars, it's basically like that little white sphere that you place in front of your avatar's eyes. I'm just going to set it right here, and that looks like that should be about good. We want to do dynamic bones on the hair. Now that's an optional part of this. You do not have to add dynamic bones. If you wanted to, this avatar is completely good to go now. But I'm guessing that you'll probably want to make your hair look good and you want it to move when you do. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. In the hierarchy tab down here, there's armature, body, and secondary. Armature and body, you'll remember from when we were in Blender. That's the armature and body. Secondary is kind of where like all the scripts would go, right? So we're gonna do this. We're gonna go into play mode again. And we're gonna go ahead, if you hold Alt and click this little arrow next to armature, it'll expand all of your different bones. We're going to want to animate the hair. So let's go ahead and, where it says root bones here, if you click and drag hair 1, the root bones, and we'll do that for the right hair too. That applies dynamic bones to these hair right here. We're going to turn stiffness force down, and we're going to turn let's see with gravity power right here. All right, so you see how it's like already kicking in as we drag this. You don't want to go too crazy on these. Moderation is key. So I usually start and I just slide it until I see it start to move, and I kind of play around with this spot here. Now my only question is why it's not seeming to do this with the left hair. See, as we move it around, it goes kind of crazy. The dynamic bones on the hair usually take some fine tuning. Also, why can't I see for myself? That's kind of weird. It's probably a materials related thing that should be pretty easy to fix. Alright, let's go back down to, where is it? Secondary again. It's super weird that it's not acknowledging that other bone. See, I knew we were gonna hit a snag. It was only a matter of time. Let's go ahead and just try this. Sometimes it gets a little screwy. We'll hit cancel, and we'll paste our values. We'll put it in play mode again, see if it... There we go. For some reason, it wasn't applying it to both sides of the head. But if you go to your model here in play mode and move it, see now the hair moves. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to go through every single bone. Normally, I would put some in the front bangs, on this tie here maybe, and then if you like it, you can put in jiggle physics on the boobs. Keep in mind, you can duplicate this spring bone script if you want different settings for different sets of bones. Like, I'm not going to want the boobs to move the same way the hair does. You can copy this component and then paste it as a new one, and then just change the root bones in the settings to apply to a different set of hair. You can also use this little comment tab to put little reminder notes. So like this is hair, and then like this one would be like boobs. And then, you know, you just fine tune these as you want. You can add 100 of these scripts if you feel like it. Just keep in mind, the more you add, the less optimized your model is going to be. So if you're running everything on a limited amount of power on your computer, you might want to dial back on the dynamic bones a bit. Before you export it, you can make fine tuning changes to your materials. I'm just looking really quick to see what is causing this hole in my body. I'm guessing it's probably body grain. Nope, it's not that. That's super weird. Where is it on this model? It's this right here. It's this green stuff, right? It's so bizarre. Alright, we're not gonna worry too much about that. It's probably just, like I said, one of these materials is screwed up. If I wanted to, I could just probably select everything. Oh, see, doesn't seem to fix it. Oh, I'm in the wrong materials folder. I'm an idiot. Okay, so there's a mistake you might make, is if you try to make changes, you can't select the original set of materials you were working with right here. You gotta go to VRM, sorry, your normalized folder, and then the Miku.materials, and then you can make the changes here, so let's see. Look at that. There we go. We had some missing details, it's fine. Yeah, we were losing some good detail there. This is why it's good to double check your stuff. What is this part here? I think this is supposed to be transparent. Yeah, there we go. That was right. There's the eye highlights. This is supposed to be transparent. There we go. Alright. Now it looks stellar. Alright, so last step you gotta do, this is literally it. This is the final step. You select your model. I lied, hang on. There's one more step. This is totally optional. If you want this, set this little thumbnail right here, you can drag any image into this slot, and it will act as the little preview icon on any software that supports it. It's not required, but I recommend it. It's not really that much effort. But what you can do, let's turn off this drawing just mode really quick. Let's go into play mode. And let's just take a little, I'm taking a screenshot of the face. That's good enough, save directly. Let's grab that from my desktop and drag that in. I'm dragging all the wrong stuff everywhere. There we go. Alright, now we're done for real. You can go to VRM, export humanoid. This is fine as is. Make sure force T poses off and pose freeze is off. Export. I have a folder for all my VRMs. We'll call this Miku. And then, give me 1 second, I'll show you guys something. I gotta restart Luppet so you guys can see. Where is Luppet? There it is. Luppet takes a little bit to start up because it's got to log in to their server, and then you're good to go. And I forgot to add the file to Luppet, so let me just do that too. I keep all my VRMs in a folder for Magic Mirror, but if you're using Luppet, they have a specific folder you gotta drop stuff into. Let me see if there it is, Miku. I'm blind. I didn't drink coffee this morning. Applications, Luppet data, resources. No, sorry, streaming assets. I think where they go. Yeah. Alright, so you guys can take a quick peek at this model in action. Just a second here.
Huh, not too shabby.
Cool, man. 3 months pregnant with my child. Thank you so much. Alright, so Let's see. And where is it? There you go. Here's our new model. Its camera angle is a little bit weird because my squid's shorter than an average anime girl. But this is the result. So that took us what, like half an hour? Maybe a little bit less? I don't know. JR Stan edits the video for me and cut down some of the bullshit. So yeah, that's it for our tutorial. If you're watching this and you get stuck on something, you just, well, I'll post the link for my Discord in the YouTube comments so that people can hit me up with questions. But it's a pretty easy process, and if you have experience doing like VR chat avatars and stuff, like it's really not that hard. It's about the same level of effort as setting up an avatar for VR chat. The eyes are blinking so much. Okay, so that's a me problem. That's not Luppet. I have kind of small, narrow eyes, so eye tracking software is a little bit shitty with me. Yeah, I know it is. That's not what you expected to hear, right? Okay, so in terms of what programs you can use these models with, the first one, let me pull up sites for it. So the first one is Luppet. Now Luppet is, I'd say, the highest grade one that's available, but it costs the most money. It costs like $200 for the full setup. And I'm gonna bring back my squid. No, not that one. I have too many squid models. Alright, and boom. Alright, so yeah, this is Luppet. I like Luppet because it has one thing that none of the others have, and that is finger tracking. I can map my hands and track them in real time and give people the finger or the peace sign or the okay. Like, it's really cool. You can't do that with any other software as far as I know. And Luppet is as close as you'll get to the high-end VTuber software that you see like Kazuna AI and them use. It's pretty neat. This uses a webcam to track my head and my eyes. You can do mouth tracking, or you can use a microphone, toggle the visines. I use a microphone. And then you need a leap motion to track your hands. The leap motion is like, it's basically like an Xbox Kinect, but it fits on, like, it's about the size of your thumb, and it sits like right here on your chest. Oh wait, hang on, like right here on your chest, so you can see your hands. It's pretty cool. The cheaper option is Magic Mirror. Magic Mirror was like the first one I used, and it's one I use most of the time. Because it's just so easy to use. Also, if you look up the Magic Mirror, you'll notice my old tutorial is like the first video that shows up. And it's probably the only tutorial in English. So Magic Mirror, made by this super duper awesome person, Baku. They have it on Booth. Let's open that new tab. Let me see. You can see, you guys have seen before. You can basically set your character like they're playing a game on a controller or with a mouse and keyboard. There's also like a presentation mode where you can like point at things. This mode works horribly with my squid because of my short arms. And the best part is that this one costs $0. You just download it off the Booth, and then you add your VRM model in, and it's good to go. It's pretty easy to set up, and honestly, I think this is probably the best bet for like 99% of the people using the software. Let's see, what else? VDraw is another one. VDraw costs like $5. And the way it works, it also uses VRM files, but it lets you basically have like your desktop screen, and then it looks like your character is like drawing on it. So if you're an artist, this one's really cool. The only thing that's kind of annoying is like you can see like the problem here is that you obstruct the view of what you're working on. So I don't know. I don't really use it for much, but it's neat. It's an option. The last option I'll recommend, and this one I covered how to set this up in my old tutorial. Virtual avatar. So Suva, or Stream Your Virtual Avatar, it costs $10, and this one's neat because you can use a Tobii eye tracker, or a Vive like VR tracking hockey puck on your hands and head to track your movement. It's pretty cool, and it's probably even easier to set up than VRM, because if you have an avatar that's already set up for VR chat, you can like just add in the script for Suva and then export that avatar as is. So you don't have to change your dynamic bones, you don't have to change like anything. You can just take a VR chat avatar that's already set up in Unity and just export it. The only thing I don't like about it is you can't track your hand like gestures. So you can toggle emote slots, and basically you make one-frame animations for your hand shapes, but you have to toggle those with a number pad. So there's no easy way to do that. So what it effectively looks like is like if you were just doing this with your hand, like you just had your hands open all the time, you're just slapping things. That's like my main thing with it. Also, like in my experience, the tracking has been kind of jittery just overall. I mean, that's gonna be any motion tracking unless you have really good lighting in the room and a really good webcam. You're gonna get some jitter, like even mine jitters a bit. Overall, it's still a pretty good tool, and if you just want something that works with like current things you own, like if you have full body tracking already or whatever, like it's not a bad option. There's a couple other programs you can use VRM for. Virtual motion capture is one, which lets you do, let me just pull it up and show you. So, let's see, do they have a, no, this is not it. I'll just pull up this tutorial, or video. So, this uses VRM and your full body tracking software to track your character in a 3D space. So you can effectively use it for things like this, like Beat Saber, where you have your character like shown on screen. It's kind of cool if you're like a VR streamer. It's not very useful outside of that. And I think it has the same problems as Suva, where you can't control your hand gestures. But it's a kind of a neat thing. I'll find the website for this and pull it up on the YouTube links list. So, alright, I think that covers it for the tutorial section. Did anyone have any questions? I'm assuming most people probably zoned out through most of this if they're not a 3D modeler. I'm pretty sure most of the questions I'm going to get are going to be on YouTube comments, which I got to remember to check because I'm bad at that. But yeah, we also have the Discord too, so there's that. Let me stop the recording really quick.